A faint groan echoed from the corridor. One of the stunned guards stirred, hand fumbling toward a comms unit clipped to his vest. Spectre spun, drones whirring, but too late, his fingers brushed the trigger, a red light blinking alive. "Comms," she hissed, just as a Clarkson screamed, shattering the silence. Lights blazed on, flooding the cathedral in stark white. Shouts erupted below, boots pounding stone as the city jolted awake. "Move!" T barked, but the exit was already a chokehold, Red Dawn fighters spilling in, rifles spitting fire. The cathedral turned into a crucible, Red Dawn swarming like hornets from a kicked nest. Shepherd's blade fought back-to-back in the nave, non-lethal rounds cutting through the chaos. Bear's foam grenades cocooned 3 fighters against a pillar, their curses muffled as they thrashed. Spectre's drones danced overhead, stunners crackling, dropping 2 more into twitching heaps. Pulse started low, baton flashing, neural bursts felling a pair mid-charge. Red sonic waves rolled out, flattening a cluster near the door, their rifles skidding across the floor. Red crouched at the pillar, visor locked on a catwalk shooter, sonic rifle humming, snap, whoosh, the man slumped, stunned. A rifle cracked in reply, pain lanced Red's bicep, a bullet tearing clean through, blood soaking his sleeve in a hot rush. "Chert vos me," he spat, ripping a strip from his suit to bind it, teeth gritted as the burn settled. He shifted the rifle to his left hand, scope steady despite the throb, snap, whoosh, another fighter fell, clattering limp against the railing. "Keep comin'," he growled, visor hiding the grimace, each shot a defiance of the wound screaming under cloth. A sharp whistle cut the air, a Red Dawn fighter hefted an RPG, its rusted tube glinting as he braced against a shattered pew. The rocket screamed past, detonating against a pillar in a spray of marble and dust, the shockwave slamming T into a crate. "They're packing heavy," he yelled, ears ringing as debris rained down. A fighter near the altar roared, "No dawn but blood." His voice cracking with zeal as he smashed a stained glass shard underfoot, its saint's face splintering into dust. He gritted his teeth, fanatics beyond reason. But the tide kept rising. Bear's foam launcher clicked empty, a hollow snap in the din. "Non-lethal's dry," he shouted, dodging a burst of gunfire that chewed the pew beside him. "Switch to lethal, now." Bear hesitated, his big hands fumbling for his sidearm, but pulse was already moving, pistol barking, 2 rounds punching through a fighter's chest, blood blooming dark on his vest. Red's rifle shifted to live rounds, a sharp crack dropping another as the man's grenade rolled uselessly away. Spectre cursed, her drones out of juice, and drew a compact pistol, tagging a shadow on the balcony. T's baton fell silent, replaced by his own sidearm, each shot a reluctant prayer, mercy slipping through his fingers like sand. The first pull of the trigger burned, Abuela's voice whispered lose, but the dark swallowed it, bullet by bullet. "They're boxing us in," Pulse yelled, ducking as bullets sparked off marble. The squad tightened, pinned near the altar, the air thick with smoke and the copper tang of blood. "Tex," Spectre snapped into her comms, voice cutting through static. "Pinned down, need you, now." Outside, Tex bolted from the transport, Stetson low, a sleek drone popping from the hull and trailing him like a loyal hound. He sprinted up Peters Hill, the cathedral's courtyard a war zone of muzzle flashes and shouts. "Hang on, y'all," he hollered, jamming earplugs in deep. He positioned the drone dead center, its hull pulsing faintly, as he thumbed the trigger. A low, bone-rattling hum erupted, inaudible to Tex, deafening to all else. Within seconds, every soul in a 500-meter radius dropped, fighters and squad alike collapsing into boneless heaps, rifles clattering silent. The city fell still, a graveyard of sleep under the cathedral's shadow. Tex strolled in, boots crunching glass, a vial of smelling salts in hand. He knelt by T first, waving the sharp scent under his nose. T jolted awake, head splitting like a cracked bell, the rosary digging into his palm. "What was that?" he rasped, throat raw. "Concordance calls it Sandman," Tex said, moving to Bear, who groaned as the salts hit. "Puts 'em all to bed, neat as you please." Pulse stirred next, clutching her skull. "Why didn't you use that before? Would have made this a dang picnic." Tex grinned, rousing Spectre and Red. "Only had one set of earplugs, darlin'. And you'll see why in a tick." The squad tried to stand, but their legs buckled, equilibrium shot. Bear lurched, face paling. "Oh, no," he stumbled to the bushes, ribs and cornbread erupting in a violent heave. Pulse followed, cursing through her own retch. Spectre dry heaved, glaring at Tex, while Red spat bile, muttering Russian oaths. He gripped a fence, stomach roiling as the barbecue feast clawed its way back up. You'll be wobbly a day, Tex said, unfazed, hauling Bear upright. Messes with your balance something fierce. Worse if you've gorged lately, sorry about that, big guy. Ribs. Betrayed me, Bear wheezed, wiping his mouth with a shaky hand. Move slow, Tex urged, slinging Pulse's arm over his shoulder. Back to the transport, DC's waitin'. They staggered through London's eerie hush, Red Dawn's forces sprawled in droves, the Sandman's lull a fleeting mercy. Bear limped, one hand clutching a bruised rib, while Pulse wheezed, her baton arm trembling. Spectre's steps faltered, drones slung low, and Red's breath rasped like a saw through the chill. The transport gleamed ahead, cloaking field flickering as they piled in, heads throbbing, guts hollowed. Tex took the controls, tipping his hat. Next time, skip the barbecue for a scrap, less mess. The engines growled, and the Thames swallowed them again, London fading into the night. T slumped in his seat, rosary warm against his wrist, the weight of lethal choices and Sandman's cost settling deep. Busca la luz, he murmured, a flicker of resolve amid the ache. Washington loomed ahead, rest, answers, and a war that wouldn't wait. The transport cut through the Atlantic, the squad sprawled in a haze of exhaustion and lingering nausea. Bear cradled his head, muttering about ribs being the devil's work, while Pulse nursed a canteen, scowling at Tex's easy grin. Pulse's grip tightened on the canteen, her knuckles white, eyes fixed on the deck. I put 2 in that guy's chest, she said, voice low, cracking at the edges. Watched him bleed out, didn't even blink. That's not what I signed up for, T. T looked back at her, I'm actually happy that it bothers you. I'd be more concerned if it didn't, it just shows that you cherish life, that's a good thing. Back in Medellin, Abuela taught me to fix, not break, where's the deed in that? She flung the canteen down, water splashing the hull, her breath hitching. Bear shifted, his big frame hunching as if her words hit his own scars. I get it, Pulse, he murmured, voice soft. Hurts worse when it's not just foam. T met her gaze, steady but strained, the rosary still against his wrist. We're still here, Pulse. That's the fight, holding on. She glared back, jaw tight, but didn't argue, the silence heavy as the engines thrummed. Spectre synced her drone pad, images of Red Dawn's Mars plans flickering across the screen, and Red just stared out the viewport, his silence heavier than usual. Hours later, back at the Virginia safehouse, the squad gathered around the picnic table, now cleared of barbecue remnants, for an after-action review. The holoscreen crackled to life, Colonel Hargrove's stern face cutting through the static, his gray eyes unyielding. T stood, still wobbly but steady enough, and briefed him, voice clipped. Red Dawn's stronghold hit, sir. Non-lethal until they swarmed us, had to go lethal to break out. Spectre's got the intel, they're targeting the Concordance outpost on Mars, Olympus Mons. Shuttles, bombs, ground assault. Splinter cells moving fast. Spectre flicked the schematics onto the hollow feed, red lines snaking across the Martian terrain. Flight plans confirm it, Colonel. London's their hub, Red Dawn's stronghold, and they're prepping to strike from there. We stopped tonight's move, but they've got more brewing. Hargrove's jaw tightened, a rare flicker of approval crossing his granite features. Good work, Shepherd's Blade. That intel's gold, Red Dawn's a rogue flame we can't let spread. Concordance is stepping up, they're prepping a shuttle to their orbital base in Earth's orbit, then a transport to Mars. They want this nipped at the root. He paused, leaning closer to the screen. They're also insisting one of their own rides with you, keep their interests in the mix. Tex is their pick, joins the squad effective immediately. Tex, lounging against the porch rail with his Stetson tipped low, spat his toothpick into the dirt. Aw, no way, Colonel. I'm a ferryman, not a dang babysitter. I've got my transport, my sky, don't need to be playing tag-along with this crew. His drawl carried a petulant edge, arms crossing like a sulky kid roped into chores. Hargrove's glare could have melted steel. Stow it, Captain. Concordance calls the shots on this one, they're bankrolling the ride, and they trust you to keep their tech in check. You're in, like it or not. Tex kicked at the dirt, muttering under his breath, something about uppity brass and Mars dust in my boots before slumping his shoulders. Fine, reckon I'll do it, he said, half-hearted, tipping his hat back with a sigh. But don't expect me to sing hymns with them or polish their batons. I'm there for the Concordance, not their mercy crusade. He shot T a sidelong glance, smirking faintly. No offense, Grill King. T's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile. None taken. Just don't slow us down, cowboy. Bear chuckled, still pale but rallying. Welcome to the mess, Tex. Red cracked a rare grin, the tension easing a fraction. Hargrove cut in, voice firm. Shuttle's ready in 48 hours. Rest up, gear up, Mars is next. Godspeed. Safe House, Virginia. The feed blinked out, leaving the squad in the safe house's quiet, the weight of the mission settling like dusk over the pines. T slipped the rosary beneath his sleeve, meeting each gaze, Bear's steady warmth, Pulse's fire, Spectre's cool focus, Red's grim resolve, and now Tex's reluctant drawl. We've got work, he said simply, the light he sought flickering ahead, faint but unyielding, across the void to Mars. A day after London, the squad sprawled around the safe house, bodies screaming from the fight and Sandman's lingering bite. Bear groaned with every shift, ribs bruised purple under his shirt, his head still swimming faintly like the floor might tilt. Pulse winced, her baton arm stiff as old leather, a queasy lurch hitting when she stood too fast. Spectre's fingers twitched over her pad, cramped from drone commands and unsteady from a ghost of vertigo. Red's neck cracked like gunfire when he turned, his scowl deeper as nausea flickered. T flexed his hands, joints aching from gripping the rosary too tight, the cathedral's chaos buzzing in his skull with a dull, Sandman hum. We're beaten down, Bear muttered, voice thick, and this dang buzz won't quit. Somebody, anybody, gimme something to shake this. Tex glanced over from the porch, Stetson tilted, and grinned like he'd been waiting for the cue. Tex, leaning against the doorframe, tipped his Stetson back and grinned, a sly glint in his eye. Y'all are wound tighter'n a rattler in a boot. Reckon I got something might loosen you up, something a touch. Off the books. He sauntered over to the transport, hands in his pockets, kicking dirt like a kid with a secret. Ain't supposed to have it, mind you. Concordanced of my hide if they knew I'd kept it stashed. Bear perked up, leaning forward. Spill it, cowboy. What's the play? Tex rocked on his heels, milking the moment. Well, now, it's more'n a play, it's a downright escape. Something to take the edge off without a grill in sight. You lot ever cast a line? He let the words hang, eyebrows waggling, then spun toward the transport, popping a hidden panel near the thrusters. Out came a tangle of fishing rods and a dented tackle box, their varnish chipped, hooks glinting like contraband gold. Forbidden fruit, y'all, snuck these aboard when I signed up. Ain't regulation, but they're mighty fine for reelin' in peace. Pulse's jaw dropped, then curved into a grin. You sneaky bastard. Fishing? I'm in, beats Red's knife obsession. Duh, Red grumbled, sheathing the blade. If I catch nothin', I'm shootin' the boat, but I'll bite. Bear clapped his hands, nearly toppling off the bench. Tex, you're a dang genius. I'm hooking a monster, count me in. He chuckled, stepping up to inspect a rod. Forbidden, huh? Let's move. An hour later, the transport bobbed gently on the Atlantic, a few miles off Virginia's coast, its cloaking field dialed down to a faint shimmer. The squad spread out along the deck, rods in hand, the sea a slate-gray mirror under a lazy sun. Bear cast first, his line whipping out with a splash, his grin wide despite a wobble. Watch this, gonna pull up a beast. The rod bent seconds later, and he yanked, muscles straining, up came a rusted concordance drone, its hull crusted with barnacles, one rotor twitching feebly like a dying bug. What in the? He bellowed, holding it aloft as it dripped onto the deck. Pulse doubled over, cackling. A beast, huh? More like Junkyard King. That thing's older than Tex. Still got a pulse, Spectre said, eyeing it with a mix of disgust and curiosity. She prodded it with her rod, and it buzzed weakly, sparking. Probably ditched from an orbital drop, concordance trash. Bear chucked it at Pulse, who dodged with a yelp. Trash or not, it's my first catch, top that. Pulse cast her line, smirking. Watch a pro. Her rod jerked soon after, and she hauled up a flopping mackerel, silver scales glinting. Tex lounged against the rail, bait dangling, his drawl cutting through Pulse's gloating. Why non-lethal first? Faster to just end 'em, no? T's rosary caught the light, his voice steady. Life ain't ours to take, Tex, every soul's worth saving, a spark God set. Faith tells me the Father's watching, shielding us when we choose mercy. It's talking to him, heart open, knowing he's why we fight to redeem, not erase. Tex nodded slowly, lips twitching. I think I could buy into some of that. Red cast his line with a scowl, his bandaged bicep stiff under his sleeve, slowing his usual sniper's grace. Pulse smirked, waving her mackerel. Arms creaky, old man? Red grunted, flexing it with a wince, the base he hauled up his only reply. Still outshoot you, kid, he muttered, but his silence lingered, eyes distant as the war's weight settled heavier. That's how it's done, junk man. She waved it in Bear's face, and he swatted it away, nearly tipping into the water with a laugh. Spectre, perched near the stern, rigged her line with a drone-tweaked lure, muttering about optimal drag coefficients. Her first cast snagged something heavy, she pulled, brow furrowed, and up came a rusted hubcap. Seriously? She snapped, chucking it overboard as Red's laugh rumbled low. City girl, he said, casting with sniper precision. His line went taut, and he reeled in a decent base, holding it up with a smug nod. That's how a man does it. T's line stayed quiet, his focus split between the water and the squad's chaos. Tex lounged by the controls, sipping a flask, tossing out bait tips with a drawl. Y'all got a sweet talk'em fish, ain't no stun pulse gonna work here. When Pulse's next catch, a tiny sardine, slipped free and flopped into his lap, he yelped, spilling his drink. Dang it, woman, aim that thing. Target practice. She shot back, grinning as Bear lobbed a spare lower at Tex in retaliation. The deck devolved into a mess of tangled lines, wet gear, and laughter, the war's weight slipping beneath the waves for a fleeting afternoon. By dusk, they'd hauled in a modest haul, mostly Pulse's mackerel, Red's base, and Bear's drone trophy and trudged back to shore, salt-streaked and lighter, the shuttle's shadow looming closer but not yet here. Act 4, Shadow orbiting Earth. Transport to spaceport. The Virginia safehouse buzzed with pre-dawn prep, Shepard's blade packing gear with the precision of a unit too long at war. Bear hefted crates of foam grenades, Pulse strapped her med kit tight, and Spectre synced her drone swarm one last time. Red polished his sonic rifle, a ritual as much as maintenance, while T checked his baton's charge, rosary glinting at his wrist. The shuttle to the Concordance's orbital platform was hours away, and the squad moved like clockwork, until Tex sauntered in, Stetson low, toothpick rolling. Y'all can leave that mess, he drawled, waving a hand at their arsenal. Ain't comin' with us. T's head snapped up, eyes narrowing. What's that mean? You're disarming us? His voice carried an edge, the weight of command bristling against the idea of being declawed before Mars. Tex raised his hands, grin easy but firm. Cool your jets, Grill King. Them toys won't work right up there, or on Mars. Atmosphere's thinner'n a preacher's promise, and space ain't kind to your Earth-tuned gear. Ballistics go wonky, charges fizzle, trust me, I've seen it. T's jaw tightened, fingers curling around his baton. Feels like we're walking in naked. Don't you fret, Tex said, clapping his shoulder. Concordance has you covered. They've got your usual kit waitin' at the orbital platform, batons, rifles, the works, but with some fancy upgrades. Adjusted for vacuum and dust. You'll be purring like kittens with new claws. T exhaled, still uneasy but nodding. Better be good claws. Red, though, wasn't so quick to let go. He cradled his sonic rifle like a firstborn, his grizzled face twisting. This beauty's been with me since Novosibirsk. Dropped Caliphate scouts at 300 meters. You're telling me to ditch her? His voice cracked, a rare tremor breaking through his steel. Tex softened, just a touch. She's a fine piece, Red, but she'll misfire in orbit. Concordance'll hook you up, something with the same bite, I swear it. Red grunted, setting the rifle down like it pained him, muttering Russian curses under his breath. The transport hummed to life, slicing south from Virginia, hugging the coast past Florida's jagged edge before veering west. Hours later, it slowed near Cologne, Panama, the canal's locks groaning in the distance, the air thick with salt and memory. T peered out the viewport, the canal's locks groaning below. Pit stop, Tex? Why here? Tex leaned back, boots on the dash. Cargo's delayed, some tech crates got held up in the locks. Gives you a few hours to stretch them legs. Maybe see kin if you're inclined. He shot T a knowing look, ignoring Bear's groan as he shifted, ribs still tender from London. T's eyes widened, then softened. Gracias, Tex, didn't expect that. Bear lumbered over, clapping T's back. I'll tag along, T. Keep you company, maybe meet the folks who made you so darn stubborn. T smiled, faint but real. Appreciate it, Bear. Let's go. They stepped into Cologne's humid embrace, the tin rooftop strumming with a light drizzle. T led Bear through cracked streets to a modest house, its paint peeling but warm with life. As they approached, the door flew open, Clara, his mother, ran out, arms wide, crashing into him with a hug that squeezed the breath from his lungs. Matteo, his father, followed slower, a dockworker's limp in his step, but his grin was broad. Behind them, Tia Sophia and Tio Luis emerged, smiles crinkling their weathered faces. Elias, Clara cried, pulling back to cup his face. Mi hijo, you're alive. We hear good things, Tia Sophia chimed, winking. Oh, but I guess you can't tell us, huh? Our lips are sealed. Tio Luis nodded, chuckling. Secret hero stuff, eh? We're proud anyway. He gestured to his towering friend. Mom, Dad, Tio, Tia, this is Jamal, but we call him Bear. Sophia craned her neck, eyes wide. Madre de Dios, he looks like he could eat a bear. Both of you, inside, tamales are happening. The house smelled of masa and spice, a balm to T's soul. They small-talked over coffee, Claire asking if he ate enough, Mateo gruffly praising his grit, Sophia and Luis teasing about his fancy soldier life. Bear soaked it in, grinning as Sophia piled his plate high. Too soon, T glanced at his watch. We've got to head back, Bear. Duty calls. Clara hugged him tight again, whispering, be safe, mijo. Mateo gripped his hand, firm and steady, a silent anchor. Sophia pressed a warm bag into his arms. Tamales for your team, don't let them go hungry. Back at the transport, cargo crates loomed in the hold, Concordance Tech, sleek and sealed. She offered the bag, and the squad's eyes lit up like kids at Christmas. Spectre sniffed the air, grinning. Oh, this is gonna be good. Pulse snatched one, peeling the husk. You know it. T's family's got the magic touch. Red took a bite, grunting approval. Better in rations. Panama's got my vote. Red waved his hand, signaling to pass him another one. The transport slipped through the canal, tamales vanishing as the squad sank into a food coma, sprawled across seats. Hours stretched across the Pacific, the hum of engines lulling them to sleep. Near dawn, Tex blasted the horn, jolting them upright. Pulse groaned, Bear rubbed his eyes, and Red cursed the noise. Rise and shine, y'all. Tex hollered. Wenchang spaceports ahead, next legs up to the stars. T stretched, rosary clicking, the tamale warmth a fleeting shield against the cold of space ahead. Mars loomed closer, and with it, the fight they couldn't outrun. Wenchang Spaceport, China. The transport glided into Wenchang Spaceport at dawn, its sleek hull cutting through the humid haze of Hainan Island. Towering gantries and launch pads pierced the sky, a forest of steel humming with concordance efficiency. The transport settled at dawn, squads spilling out bleary from tamales and travel. A delegation approached, crisp uniforms, clipped tones, no smiles. UCN assets, welcome to Wenchang, the lead delegate said, accent sharp, jaw tight with a flicker of disdain. Tell us what you need, we'll comply, within reason. He turned to lead them off, but T caught a flicker, a subtle twist of disapproval in the man's jaw, gone as quick as it came. Follow me, the delegate said, voice flat, guiding them through the bustling port to a sterile medical room. We need to do this right. Space isn't forgiving, got to ensure you're fit for the journey. Doctors swarmed, prodding and poking with cold hands and colder tools. Bear winced as a needle jabbed his arm, muttering, feelin' like a pincushion here. Pulse glared at a scanner pressed to her chest, while Spectre critiqued the tech, outdated by 2 gens, but functional. Red just growled through a reflex test, his patience fraying. T stood stoic, rosary a quiet anchor as they drew blood and checked vitals. Next, the delegate ushered them to a fitting room, where a wiry tailor awaited, tape measure in hand. He sized up Bear and Red, eyes widening like he'd seen a mountain move. We may need to order more material, he blurted, scribbling notes as Bear chuckled and Red scowled. The tailor darted around, measuring limbs and torsos, muttering about non-standard frames while the squad traded smirks. Finally, they filed into a briefing room, its walls lined with holoscreens. Hargrove's stern face flickered on one, flanked by concordance brass in sleek gray uniforms, their expressions unreadable. Good, you're here, on time. Hargrove barked, his voice cutting through the hum. The concordance is forming an assault team on the orbital platform. Shepard's blade will act in support, recon role. He stiffened, stepping forward. Sir, with all due respect, I thought we'd be leading this assault. His tone was steady, but the disappointment seeped through, a crack in his calm. Hargrove's eyes narrowed. This is their territory, Torres, and their call. They want you scouting ahead, recon's critical. That's the order. Yes, sir, T said, voice tight. I understand. He turned to the squad, their faces a mix of confusion and unease, Bear's brow furrowed, Pulse's jaw set, Spectre's gaze distant, Red's fists clenched. Team, T added, firm, we follow orders, even ones we don't like. Tex sidled up, patting T's back. Sorry about that, partner. Can imagine how you're feeling, like a stallion penned up when you want to run. The briefing rolled on, orbits and timetables flashing across screens, a concordance officer droning about approach vectors to Mars. The squad listened, half dazed, as the reality sank in, support, not spearhead. When it wrapped, their suits awaited, sleek, black, and tailored, stacked in a row. They suited up, the fabric hugging tight with a faint hum of embedded tech. Red tugged at his, grimacing. Guess they don't make these for big fellas here, mine's riding up my backside something fierce. Pulse snickered, snapping her helmet seals. Looks like you're ready to split your pants, Red. They shuffled to the elevator, boots clanging on metal as it rose to the gantry. The rocket loomed, a concordance beast, all curves and matte finish, engines simmering. Inside, they strapped into padded seats, the cabin tight and sterile. Nerves crackled, Pulse's leg bounced, Spectre's fingers twitched, Bear cracked his knuckles. Tex buckled in beside T, Stetson stashed. Can't believe they roped me into this, he muttered, voice low. Concordance owns my ass now, ocean's a memory. The countdown hit 0, and the rocket roared to life, a perfect launch pinning them back with relentless G's. Pulse gripped her straps, hissing to T, I'm not liking this at all. T just nodded, rosary pressed against his chest, eyes shut as the world fell away. Then, silence. Zero gravity hit, and the cabin turned surreal. Bear whooped as a stray tamale wrapper floated free, batting it like a kid with a balloon. Look at this, space is wild. Pens and straps drifted, and Spectre snatched her drifting pad, muttering about unsecured variables. The capsule docked with a soft thud, locking onto the orbital platform. As they floated through the hatch, artificial gravity kicked in, boots thudding onto deck plating. Bear stumbled, grinning, while Red cursed the shift. Tex stretched, tipping an imaginary hat. Welcome to space, y'all. Ain't she a beaut? The platform sprawled ahead, gleaming corridors, humming tech, and the promise of new gear. T's gaze hardened, recon or not, the fight loomed closer. Mars waited, and Shepard's blade would find a way to shine. Orbital platform Nexus Prime. Shepard's blade stepped onto Nexus Prime, greeted by a delegation unlike Wenchong's stiff formality. These figures gleamed with cybernetic implants, eyes glowing faintly, arms whirring with servos, a fusion of flesh and machine. Spectre froze, her sharp gaze darting across the platform sprawl, hollow displays flickering, drones zipping through corridors, a tech utopia orbiting Earth. This is next level, she breathed, awe cracking her usual cool. The lead delegate, a wiry man with a retinal implant pulsing blue, stepped forward. Welcome to Nexus Prime, our orbital platform. Consider yourselves guests here. Let us show you to your quarters. His voice was smooth, mechanical, a faint hum beneath it. T bristled, planting his feet. I thought we'd be leaving immediately. The delegate tilted his head, a condescending edge creeping in. T, is it? Orbital timing is critical. We've got 48 hours before the launch window opens, Mars isn't going anywhere yet. He gestured down a corridor. Here are your quarters. T's jaw tightened, but he nodded, leading the squad to a Spartan dorm, bunks, a table, and a viewport framing Earth's curve. Set your watches, he said. Main conference room, 1300 China Standard Time. The team synced, Pulse muttering about cyborg babysitters as they settled in. At 1300, they filed into the conference room, Hargrove's stern face on a holoscreen beside concordance brass, implanted and impassive. A platform officer spoke, voice grim. Nexus Prime hasn't received comms from the Mars outpost for over 20 hours. We've tried everything, no replies. The base may have fallen. Expect it compromised when you arrive. The mood shifted, but then the officer pivoted, unveiling a rack of gleaming weapons, batons, rifles, grenades, all tweaked for space. In honor of your visit, he said, your new gear. The officer gestured to a tech beside him, who snapped a baton alive, its tip crackled blue, arcs dancing steady despite the platform's thin air. Vacuum-sealed charges, he said, voice clipped. Stuns hold twice as long as your Earth gear, Mars dust won't choke 'em. He handed over a rifle next, its barrel humming as he fired a sonic pulse into a test pad, the sound wave punched tight, cracking the target clean in half. Recoils cut for low gravity, hits harder, farther. Grenades pack a heated catalyst, foam sets instant in zero atmo, no drift. He stepped back, arms crossed. Red Dawn won't know what hit him. Spectre's eyes lit up. Christmas morning? Bear hefted a foam grenade launcher, its heated catalyst glowing faintly. You guys get me. He thumped his fist over his heart, a mock salute. Red ran his fingers along a sleek sonic rifle, a lover's caress, his grizzled face softening. Pulse smirked. Red, need some privacy with that? He grunted, cradling it closer. A deafening boom cut the laughter short. The wall housing the cafeteria erupted, a meter-wide hole blasting open to the void. Screams echoed as men and women clawed at tables and rails, some held, others didn't, sucked out into space with a silent whoosh. The squad bolted toward the breach, Pulse shouting, "We need to save them, somehow." T eyed the hole, debris jamming its edges. Grab anything big, toss it at the hole. Red stared, incredulous. That won't seal it. Just do it. T barked. Bear, test those grenades, once we've got material, lob a few at it. Gotcha, T, I'm tracking, Bear said, snagging a crate as Pulse and Red hurled chairs and panels. The junk clogged the gap, and Bear fired, foam grenades burst, hardening into a sticky seal, staunching the vacuum's pull. Platform engineers in EVA suits swarmed outside, welding a permanent patch. Spectre knelt by the breach, tracing scorch marks. T, this was sabotage, look at the burns. Inside job. A nearby engineer nodded, grim. She's right. Red Dawn's got an agent aboard. Spectre, with a nod from the officer, jacked into the security feed, pulling up grainy footage, a figure planning a charge near the cafeteria. An alarm blared, speakers crackling. Red alert. Security to the ambassador's suite. The squad hustled over, finding security already in the room. A Caliphate delegation stood there, robes stark against the platform's steel, faces thunderous. T blinked. What is this? A Nexus Prime officer stepped in. They've been pushing for a truce since London, sent these delegates to ensure Red Dawn's crushed clean. The lead Caliphate delegate, a tall man with a stern beard, watched the footage, then pointed at his assistant, a wiry figure now pale with guilt. I see. Very good. Take him away. This is worse than I thought. The lead delegate along with his remaining assistants, leave the room, desperately trying to hold their head high. Security cuffed the man, dragging him off as he spat defiance. The officer turned to T. They'll travel on a second ship, therefore, no more friction between you and them. Thank you, many more could have died. You've got our gratitude. Exhausted, the squad returned to their quarters and snagged a nap, only to be jolted awake hours later to the intercom. All personnel to the launch pad, the orbital window is upon us. They trudged to the bay, joining a diminished attack squad, faces hollow with loss. A Nexus Prime official approached with his voice low. We lost a third of our force in that breach, officers too. Morale shot. We asked for support, but... Could you lead? With your grit, we might pull this off. T paused, Abuela's words echoing, act when the world breaks. He looked up, resolute. Sure, but only because this matters to everyone involved. The squad boarded, suits humming, the portal sealing behind them. Mars loomed, a red wound in the black, and Shepard's blade was back where they belonged, leading the charge, ready or not. Act 5, Shadow over Mars. Transport ship en route to Mars. Shepard's blade settled into the Concordance transport, a sleek, arrowhead-shaped cylinder thrumming with the deep, steady pulse of fusion drives as it peeled away from Nexus Prime's gleaming orbital sprawl. Earth shrank in the viewport, a blue marble dwindling against the black, its curve a fading tether to a world they'd fought across, London's cathedral, Panama's humid streets, all slipping into memory. The squad fidgeted in their padded seats, strapped in tight, suits humming with embedded tech, restless energy crackling beneath the weight of a 3-month haul to Mars. T unbuckled first, his boots lifting off the deck as he floated toward Tex, who lounged near the comms panel, Stetson stashed under his seat, toothpick rolling lazily between his lips. Any space on this tin where we can train? T asked, voice steady but edged with purpose, the rosary at his wrist glinting faintly in the cabin's sterile light. Tex grinned wide, drifting to the comms with a casual push, fingers brushing the controls like he was petting a horse. Let me check with the captain, see if he's got a corner for y'all to play soldier in this sardine can. Minutes ticked by, the ship's hum a constant undertone, until Tex waved T over with a flourish, his drawl cutting through the quiet. Cargo hold's got a spot, tight as a coffin, mind you, but it'll do. Ain't no fancy gym, but you can swing them batons without punchin' a bulkhead or bustin' my pretty face. T turned to the squad, his gaze sweeping the cramped cabin. Paul slouched with her med kit hugged to her chest, Bear sprawled like a bear trapped in a cage, Spectre syncing her drone pad with twitchy fingers, Red polishing his sonic rifle with a lover's care, its barrel gleaming under the LEDs. Training starts now, T said, voice cutting sharp through the hum. Cargo hold, move. Bear groaned, shifting his bulk as he floated an inch off his seat, ribs still bruised from London. Now? T, we just dodged a breach and hauled tamales halfway around the planet, gimme a dang minute to breathe. Pulse nodded, rubbing her temples where Sandman's buzz lingered faintly. Yeah, boss, my arm's stiff as hell. Can't we sleep first? T folded his arms, drifting steady in 0G, his eyes hard but warm. 3 months to Mars ain't a vacation, it's a clock tickin'. Red Dawn's waitin', and we ain't showing up soft. London was a warm-up, this is the real fight. Move. His tone brooked no argument, the rosary a quiet anchor against his suit, Abuela's act when the world breaks echoing in his skull. Red scoffed, arms crossing as he pushed off a wall, floating with a scowl. Training? What for? We're at the top of our game, been droppin' fools since London, Novosibirsk, you name it. His grizzled face twisted, pride flaring like a struck match. T fixed him with a stare, unyielding, then beckoned a concordance soldier, a lean figure with cybernetic reflexes, his left arm whirring faintly, eyes glowing with a targeting HUD that flickered green in the dim. Spar with him, T said, nodding at Red, his voice calm but loaded. Red smirked, cracking his knuckles as he drifted into position, boots nudging a crate for leverage. Too easy. This'll take a minute, 2, tops. Cyber boy's going down. The fight was over fast, but not how Red planned. The soldier moved like liquid in 0G, darting with a grace no human spine could match, servos humming as he twisted midair. He flipped Red mid-lunge, catching his arm and spinning him hard. Red flailed, tumbling like a drunk sailor on shore leave, crashing into a crate with a grunt that echoed off the hull. His pride dented harder than his ribs, he shoved off, red-faced. T folded his arms, a faint smile tugging his lips. Think I made my point. Red floated to a corner, pouting as he muttered Russian oaths under his breath. Chert Vozmy, cybernetic show-off while the squad snickered, Pulse's laugh sharp and biting, Bear's a low, rumbling chuckle, Spectre hiding a grin behind her pad. Hex drifted back, chuckling as he clapped T's shoulder, his Stetson free head bobbing. Talk to the captain, he can tweak the hold with microgravity when we're ready. Give y'all a taste of Mars pull, get them legs used to 0.38 grams. Ain't no rodeo, but it'll toughen you up. Training kicked off in earnest, Shepard's blade and a handful of Concordance troops spilling into the cargo hold's cramped expanse, a steel box lined with crates and webbing. 0G drills came first, bodies twisting weightless as batons sparked blue and rifles hummed with sonic pulses. Bear hurled foam grenades that floated slow, bursting in sticky clouds that clung to walls, while Pulse danced with her baton, landing hits on a cyber soldier whose arm blocked faster than her eye could track. His HUD beeped, adjusting in real time. Spectre synced her drones, programming them to mimic Red Dawn's ragged tactics, dive and zap patterns she'd dissected from London footage, their thrusters whining as they darted. Red sulked less as days bled into weeks, eventually joining with a grunt, his new sonic rifle humming in the low G drills the captain dialed up, Mars gravity pulling just enough to ache in their bones, a taste of the red dirt waiting. 45 days in, halfway through the relentless grind, the captain pulled T aside in the hold, his face grim behind a scratched visor, voice low over the ship's steady hum. Other ships delayed. Hit a debris field, minor damage to their hull, a few cracked panels, but they're patching it, limping behind us. Mission's on us now, more or less, Concordance brass says we're the tip of the spear, like it or not. T nodded, rosary clicking against his suit as he flexed his aching hands, London's toll still whispering in his joints, Sandman's faint buzz a ghost in his skull. Thanks, Captain. All on us, got it. He turned to the squad, relaying the news mid-drill, their faces hardening under sweat-streaked visors, Pulse's jaw tightening like a vice, Bear's grin sharpening into something feral, Spectre's eyes narrowing like a hawk locking prey. The training intensified, a blade honed for Mars, every spar a promise of the fight ahead. Hours before orbit, the intercom crackled, the captain's voice cutting through the hold's sweat-soaked air, sharp and urgent. We've got visual on the orbital platform, it's a mess. Heavy damage, looks like bombardment or sabotage tore it up, but a big section still intact, hanging on. Trying comms now. Minutes dragged, the squad silent, visors reflecting the red glow creeping through the viewport as Mars swelled closer, a wound in the black. Contact made, the captain said at last, his tone grim. Life supports barely holding, emergency powers flickering, no docking ports functional. Normally, we'd dock and shuttle down, but that's out. This ship can land vertically on the surface, old trick, sidelined since dust storms chewed the thrusters last go. Risky as hell, but it's our best shot. The squad exchanged glances, Pulse's grip whitening on her straps, Bear's grin faltering into a nervous twitch, Red's scowl deepening as he muttered about darn rust buckets fallen apart. The captain's voice crackled again, steady but firm. Everything stowed or tied down, then buckle up. It'll be a ride, and I ain't promisin' smooth. Chaos erupted in the hold, crates lashed tight with webbing, gear secured to racks with metallic clanks, Concordance troops hustled alongside, their cyber limbs whirring with precision. The ship shuddered as it punched into Mars' thin atmosphere, 6 millibars of pressure clawing at the hull, a violent rattle shaking bones, bulkheads groaning under the strain like a beast waking angry. Pulse gripped her straps, voice sharp over the roar, her Medean accent thick with strain. Thought Earth liftoff was rough, this shake's worse, like it's gonna crack us open. Red, pale as the hull, nodded stiffly, his usual gruffness muted. This, I must agree, feels like a coffin droppin' from the sky. Gravity clawed back, lighter than Earth's but insistent, a 0.38 grams pull that tugged at their guts as the ship tilted vertical, retro thrusters screaming against the descent, jets of flame and dust blasting out in the viewport feeds. With a bone-jarring thud, it slammed into the surface, the impact reverberating through the cabin, dust pluming in slow, eerie arcs 5 kilometers from the Mars base. Silence fell heavy, thick as the red haze outside, broken only by Bear's shaky laugh echoing off the walls, his big frame trembling slightly. We're alive, huh? Didn't bet on that, not with this bucket. The squad unbuckled, straps snapping free, boots thudding on the deck as artificial gravity steadied them, Mars pull light but real. Pulse stretched, wincing as her baton arm creaked, Sandman's ghost still nagging her joints. Landed like a brick, my spine screamin'. Spectre peered out the viewport, her pad forgotten, eyes wide at the crimson sprawl beyond, craters pocking the plains, Olympus Mons shadow a titan in the distance. Look at it, red as blood, empty as hell. Ain't Earth, that's for sure. T stood last, rosary steady in his grip as he faced them, his voice cutting through the awe and ache. Gear up. We're on the ground, and Red Dawn's watchin', let's not keep 'em waiting. The squad rose, suits humming with quiet power, the red planet's harsh light seeping through the viewport, a new battlefield forged in 3 months of restless steel and sweat. 5 clicks outside of Olympus Mons. The hatch hissed open with a puff of equalized pressure, and Shepard's blade stepped onto Mars, boots crunching into red regolith that shifted slow under 0.38 grams, a fine, rust-colored dust that clung to their suits like a second skin. The terrain sprawled vast and brutal, crimson plains scarred by craters deep as houses, jagged ridges slicing the horizon like broken teeth, Olympus Mons' massive shadow looming northwest, a god's fist pressed into the sky's dull orange haze. 5 kilometers west, the Concordance base squatted, a low, battered sprawl of steel and stone, its surface pocked by micrometeor scars, a hollow minaret flickering defiantly at its crown. A caliphate flag rippled in digital wind across the projection, a red dawn taunt, bold and mocking, twisting the knife in an absent ally's pride. The squad froze, visors fogging faintly with their breath, hearts thudding as they took in the alien expanse, beautiful, desolate, and hostile all at once. T snapped up a scope, scanning the base through the thin haze, his HUD zooming in on the minaret's flicker. They've marked it, rubbing the caliphate's nose in it, loud and clear. Structures damaged, hull breaches patched rough, but it's intact. Still got fight in it. Pulse groaned, kicking a fist-sized rock that skittered lazily across the dirt, its arc sluggish in the low gravity, tumbling end over end before settling 50 meters out. 5 clicks? In this? My legs hate you already, T, Sandman's still buzzin' in my head, and this dust ain't helpin' my mood. Red Dawn saw us land, T said, pointing to jagged peaks a kilometer east, their shadows pooling like ink across the red dirt, sharp and unwelcoming. We hit those mountains for cover, they'll send something to cut us off before we get close. Pulse glared from the base to the peaks, hefting her med kit with a grimace that creased her visor's reflection. Really? This is gonna be a long day, my boots are already caked, and I'm sweatin' in this suit. Spectre smirked, adjusting her drone pack as she took a light step, testing Mars' pull, her body drifting slightly before settling. Well, Mars does have longer days, souls, technically. 40 minutes extra to enjoy the misery, Pulse. Suck it up. You're not helping, Brainiac, Pulse snapped, her voice sharp as the squad trudged east, 6 Concordance troops, cybernetics glinting under their suits, fanning out behind them in a loose wedge, their steps eerily precise. A low rumble broke the stillness before they reached the peak's base. A Red Dawn troop carrier, a squat rover with armor patched and scarred, growled across the regolith a click out, its treads chewing the dirt slow but relentless. Its bay doors hissed open, disgorging 24 fighters in ragged suits, helmets cracked, rifles glinting as they spread into a skirmish line, moving with the sloppy haste of desperation. Above, 2 attack drones buzzed into the thin air, thrusters whining faintly like angry hornets, sleek, concordance made but scavenged, their scopes glowing red as they banked for a strafing run, cutting the haze with purpose. They saw us land, T barked, pointing to the mountain's rocky spine. Cover, now. The squad scrambled up the slope, boots slipping on loose grit, pulses hammering as they hauled toward the peaks. Concordance troops trailed, their cyber limbs whirring, 6 of them, elite and gleaming, but outnumbered. Drones strafed first, faint zaps kicking up slow dust plumes that hung like ghosts in the low gravity, rounds pinging off rocks with muted thuds. A cybernetic soldier, eyes glowing with targeting HUDs, snapped his rifle up, a shot cracking a drone's wing. It spiraled down, crashing in a red puff 100 meters out, its thruster sparking out. One down, Quan's got it, he rasped, voice tinny through his helm, his cyber arm steadying the shot as he nodded to T. The second drone banked hard, loosing a burst, 2 concordance troops dropped mid-stride, suits hissing as rounds punched through. Martinez. Lin, Quan shouted, his HUD flaring red. Martinez's cyber leg twitched, sparking, while Lin's chest vented air, his visor dark. Pulse bolted over, skidding on her knees beside them, foam patches sealing breaches in seconds, white globs hardening fast over the holes. She pressed her gauntlet to Martinez's chest, then Lin's, her HUD blinking flat lines, vitals gone, cybernetics powerless. Dang it, she hissed, slamming a fist into the dirt, red dust clinging to her gloves as she glared at the carrier. 2 down already, bastards came loaded. Bear lobbed foam grenades downslope, his big arm heaving them slow in the light gravity. Sticky bursts snagged 2 Red Dawn fighters mid-charge, their suits webbing to the ground, rifles pinned as they thrashed. Spectre's drones, mini-ionic thrusters whining, zipped out from her pack, upgraded zap strength crackling as they dropped 3 more, bolts arcing blue through the haze. Love these toys. She called, her grin wide behind her visor, fingers dancing on her pad. Red's rifle hummed, picking off stragglers with stunned shots, each faint snap, whoosh dropping a silhouette against the crimson murk, his scope cutting through the dust with practiced calm. The carrier's troops faltered, their line breaking as the second drone weaved. Quan nailed it with a shot, his cyber locking that shot, sending it spinning into a boulder with a muted crunch that echoed faintly across the plains. T signaled forward, voice steady over comms despite the ache in his hands. Base next, about 3 clicks now. Concordance gave us a skeleton key code, should crack any lock they've reset. The squad descended the slope, suits crunching regolith, closing to roughly a kilometer out as the base sharpened through the haze, its steel walls scarred, its minarets taunt flickering like a dare. Red paused, visor tilting up, scope glinting as he scanned the ridges flanking the approach. 3 faint glints caught his eye, scopes winking from elevated perches about 1,000 meters off, nestled in the crags overlooking the plains. Before he could speak, 3 wild zaps cracked from the ridges, dust puffed near Pulse's feet, a slug grazed a boulder by Bear, and a third plumed dirt a meter from T's flank, drifting slow in the thin air. Snipers, 3, high. Red barked, dropping to a knee as Pulse ducked low, cursing under her breath, Mierda, they're awake now. Bear grunted, unfazed, while T snapped, eyes up, Red, take 'em. The squad tensed, visors glinting in the haze, rifles twitching upward. Red exhaled slow, visor locking the farthest glint, snap, a sonic pulse lanced out, faint in the thin air, but dust swirled wide, shot veering in the wind. Darn haze, Mars ain't Earth. Snap, another miss, the pulse skittering off a rock as a sniper round hissed back, kicking regolith inches from his boot. This range screws everything. He growled, slamming a fist into the dirt, then flicked his rifle to lethal, chambering solid rounds with a sharp click. They're not stopping, no choice, need to end it. Snap, whoosh, a slug tore through, punching the sniper's chest. He jerked back, blood misting briefly before freezing, body slumping over the perch, rifle tipping into the dust below. 1 down, Red grunted, shifting to the second perch, snap, whoosh, a clean hit, the figure crumpling, helm cracked open, scope rolling down the ridge in a slow tumble. 2. The third glint winked, a faint pop loosing a shot that drifted wide, pluming dust 10 meters left. Red lined it up, steady now, snap, a miss, the slug veering in Mars' fickle gusts. Chert voes me, this planet hates me, he spat, recalibrating fast, snap, whoosh, the final round landed true, the sniper's chest bursting red, dropping limp against a rock, suit venting air in a faint hiss. 3 down, I think we're clear, Red said, a rare grin tugging his grizzled face as he stood, dusting regolith off his knee. Stuns junk out here, slugs do the job. Bear shrugged, cracking his knuckles with a clank. They shot first, good call. Pulse scowled, brushing dust off her suit. Yeah, now we're stuck with bodies, hope that holds. The base loomed closer, half a click out, when a faint whir snapped the stillness. Autogun turrets swiveled from the walls, barrels spitting faint pops, rounds chewing the dirt in slow, eerie arcs that drifted in the thin air. Down, take cover, T yelled, the squad diving behind rocks as dust burst around them, Mars silence swallowing the roar into whispers. Quan ducked beside Red, his cyber arm whirring as he pointed upper left through the murk, HUD painting a target. Sensor array, there, corner tower, top left. Hit it, sniper, and they're scrap. Red dropped prone, visor locking the faint glint through the red haze, breath steadying slow after the ridge shots. Gotcha. Snap, miss, dust swirling wide, slug veering again. This darn haze, still tricky up close. Snap, another miss, grit scattering as he cursed. Mars ain't playin' fair. He adjusted, visor tweaking for windage, snap, whoosh, a hit, the array sparking out in a shower of light, arcs dancing briefly. The turrets froze mid-turn, barrels drooping useless, their hum dying into the thin air like a sigh. T waved them up, baton sparking faintly in his grip, the rosary a quiet wait. Move, doors close. They reached the entrance, a slab of scarred metal pocked by micrometeors, its edges pitted and rough, where Spectre stepped forward, punching the skeleton key code into a flickering panel, her fingers steady despite the dust caking her gloves. Silence stretched, the squad's breath loud in their helms, tension coiling, then a grind rumbled through the ground, and 2 seconds later, the door slid open, revealing the base's shadowed guts, a maw of steel and stone. He gripped his baton tighter, rosary pressed against his suit, his voice low and firm. Inside, stay sharp. They're waiting, and they ain't done yet. Olympus Mons base, Mars. The base loomed, a sprawling compound carved into Olympus Mons' rugged flank, its steel walls melding seamlessly with natural caves the Concordance had fortified into a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers. What jutted above ground was a mere third of its true size, a warren sprawling below, a fortress built to defy Mars' relentless radiation and cold, its corridors sealed tight with airlocks to guard against breaches. Shepard's blade slipped inside, the entrance hatch grinding shut behind them with a hiss of pressurization, airlock cycling, HUDs flashing green as the atmosphere thickened to a warm, breathable 21% oxygen, a stark shift from the thin, icy void outside. Boots echoed on metal floors and stone walls. Red flicked his rifle back to stun with a faint click, muttering, "No wind in here, Pulse'll hold now." The squad split into pairs, Red and Pulse veering left down a tight, dimly lit corridor, Bear and Spectre right into a broader passage lined with sealed hatches, clearing rooms with clipped efficiency, the air humming with the faint tang of recycled oxygen and steel. In the left tunnel, Red's rifle hummed, a low sonic pulse zapping a Red Dawn scout lurking behind a crate, his suit sparked as he crumpled, stunned limp to the floor, breath fogging his cracked helm in the pressurized space, out cold but alive. Pulse ducked a wild shot from a second fighter, her baton flaring blue as she lunged, slamming it into his chest, his suit hissed, oxygen rushing out as he hit the wall with a thud, eyes rolling back behind a fractured visor. "Stay down," she muttered, stepping over him, her breath steady in the warm air. To the right, Bear's grenade burst in a side chamber, a storage nook stacked with scavenged gear, foam webbing 2 fighters to a console, their rifles pinned as they thrashed, curses muffled. Spectre's drone started through a vent, zapping a third with a crackle, blue arcs dancing as he dropped, her voice sharp over comms. "Clear here, moving up, T." A Concordance trooper, Quan, reflexes cyber fast, sliced ahead, his vibro blade slashing a door guard suit, sparks spraying as the man crumpled, blood seeping slow across the stone, staining it red in the base's steady warmth, his lethal precision a contrast to the squad's restraint. T paused in the central passage, baton humming, unease prickling despite the quiet, too still in the sealed space. "This is too easy, hold up," he said, voice low over comms, HUD scanning shadows under LEDs. "Spectre, send drones down the hallway, scout it, full sweep." "On it, T," Spectre replied, releasing a drone with a flick. It whirred forward, hummed sharp in the pressurized air, scanning in UV, thermal, and LiDAR, stitching a 3D map across their HUDs as it slipped into shadow, lights glinting off its shell. It reached the Vista Hall, a cavernous hub with towering windows framing Olympus Mons' vast sprawl, red plains glowing beyond, and flipped to infrared, feed flickering live. "This ain't good, guys," Spectre warned, voice tight as the map populated. "They're waiting, ambush, big one." The feed cut as a shot zapped the drone, but not before it pinged Red Dawn positions, dozens strong, hunkered behind crates, pillars, and catwalks ringing the hall's upper levels, rifles trained downward. Bear grinned, cracking his knuckles with a clank that echoed off steel, suit creaking. "What are we waiting for? Let's give him hell, been cooped up too long." The squad crept toward the Vista Hall, boots thudding soft in low gravity, shadows stretching under bright lights as they neared the arched entry. Red lined up a shot from the tunnel mouth, snap, whoosh, sonic pulse dropping a silhouette 50 meters out on a catwalk, body slumping with a clatter bouncing off steel, stunned still. The hall erupted, pops and snaps ricocheting sharp, the bass's acoustics amplifying chaos into a jagged roar. Red Dawn fired from multiple angles, ground-level crates spitting rounds, catwalks raining zaps sparking off the floor. Quan and 2 Concordance troops countered, HUDs locking targets, sonic pulses cracking, dropping 3 fighters fast, cyber arms steady. They picked this spot to conceal their large attack force, Tex said, ducking around pinging off a pillar, voice tight. The team advanced, weaving through cover. Bear roared, "I got the 2 on the left." Tossing twin foam grenades arcing slow, bursting into webs pinning a pair mid-charge below a window, suits cracking, glass unmarred. Red crouched at a pillar, rifle humming as he locked onto the catwalks, snap, whoosh, a Red Dawn fighter jerked and fell limp, stunned mid-shot, snap, whoosh, another crumpled, rifle clattering down, snap, whoosh, a third slumped against the railing, out cold, his scope glinting as it dropped 10 meters to the floor below. 3 down, sleep tight, Red muttered, visor steady despite dust from shattered crates swirling in his sights. An assault team, dozens strong, lurked in shadow, firing back with scavenged rifles, rounds sharp in the sealed space. Second ship's closing orbit, Quan crackled, ducking a shot grazing his shoulder, sparking his suit. Caliphate's inbound, ETA late Sol. He glanced at Tex, baton sparking, rosary glinting. "Got that Sandman device?" "Sure do." Tex grinned, patting his backpack from Nexus Prime. "It's smaller, travel size. Earplugs in everyone." He launched a small, shoebox-sized drone to the hall's heart, thrusters whining as it hovered, then triggered it. A low pulse throbbed, vibrating the floor, but Red Dawn kept shooting, rifles popping steady. "Control says it's workin'," Tex said, flustered, checking his pad as rounds zipped past. "They musta wised up, brought plugs after London." Spectre's drones darted, zapping 2 here, 1 there, her grin wicked as she steered them, blue arcs flashing. Still fun. Concordance troops laid suppressive fire, Quan's cyber locked a shooter, nailing a lethal hit through a crate gap, while Red picked off targets with stun shots, 1 snap, whoosh after another, bodies dropping limp. Red Dawn faltered, numbers thinning, then a soldier yanked out a knapsack-sized device from a crate, casing scarred and blinking red, a harsh glow cutting through dust. T scoped it, heart sinking, HUD flagged a radiation spike, high yield, a mini nuke. "Not good, they've got a nuke. They'll blow this place if they can't hold it." Red fired, snap, dropping the man with a stun pulse, body slumping over it, but it blinked alive, 5 o'clock ticking in red digits searing their visors. Pulse paled, voice cracking as she ducked a shot, medkit clanking. 5 minutes? We can't outrun that, not 5 clicks through dust. That's the idea, T said grimly, mind racing, abuelas lose a whisper against panic. Spectre snapped her fingers, eyes lighting. My drones, with new thrusters, they can lift it. Not far, but enough. T spun to Bear, baton raised. Hit it with grenades when the drones are close, pin it. Spectre, attach them as the foam sets. I believe so, T, she nodded, pad live, drones banking toward it. Red, T barked, pointing to the towering window framing Mons Peak, glass gleaming, shoot out that pane once it's up, full spread. That's inches thick, reinforced. Red protested, rifle dipping, glaring through his scope. Break it, now, T snapped, voice steel. Bear lobbed grenades, foam bloomed, heated catalyst sizzling as it hardened into tendrils, timer at 4:45. Spectre's drone swooped in, 3 latching on, thrusters whining, engines glowing red hot. The nuke lifted, wobbling, dust kicking up, 430 blinking. Red unloaded solid rounds, snap snap snap, cracks spidering the glass, barely denting it. Darn thing's a wall. Red kept firing, chipping away at the window. Thicker than a tank, this ain't workin'. Timer at 4:15, his growl crackling. Makin' progress, but gimme something heavier. Bear ducked behind a crate, rummaging fast, his big hands yanked out a battered ARP. The squad rose, visors frosted, clearing stragglers, Red Dawn folding fast in the thin air, some fleeing toward airlocks, others dropping rifles as suits hissed. T scanned the hall, unease prickling, HUD flashing oxygen steady. Too many ran, leaders still here. Control rooms are bet, top level, behind airlocks. They pushed to a sealed airlock at the hall's rear, Quan overriding it, metal groaned, cycling them into a pressurized stairwell, warmth flooding back as HUD stabilized. The squad swept upward, Quan and 2 Concordance troops trailing, cyber eyes piercing shadows, steps whirring against life support's hum. In a sealed chamber past the stairs, Red checked to make sure his rifle is still on lethal, snap, whoosh, downing a guard with a shot to the chest, blood pooling on metal as he slumped, the stakes too high now for mercy, they already tried to use a nuke. Spectre's drone hacked the lock, sparks flew, panel whirring open to a stark control room, consoles flickering red, screens showing the base's state, Vista Hall a gaping wound. Inside, a gaunt Red Dawn commander stood, pistol raised, eyes wild behind a cracked visor patched with tape, suit scarred. You'll get nothing, Mars is ours, he spat, firing, text of, the round grazing his arm, suit hissing as he cursed. Bear roared, foam pinning the man's legs, pistol clattering free. Pulse tackled him, cuffs clicked, her breath ragged. You're done, she growled, standing over him, his glare fading. By next sol, engineers trickled into sealed zones, patching damage slow, leaving the Vista Hall a frozen husk open to Mars. The squad slumped in a pressurized lounge, reviewing the fight, Bear nursing a bruised arm, Spectre tweaking a drone, when boots clomped through a hatch. More Concordance troops filed in, then silence fell. Minutes later, Caliphate delegates strode in, robes stark against steel, the cuffed commander trailing under guard, head bowed. The lead delegate, a tall, stern-bearded man, approached T, eyes probing. You've ended their shadow, cleansed this blight. Thank you, he said, voice resonant. An assistant offered a carved box, he lifted a jewel encrusted on her blade, glinting in the lounge's light, a Caliphate gift of respect. T took it, uncertain, its weight cool. Thank you, he said, gaze steady. The delegate turned, group exiting, robes trailing dust, commander dragged behind. Spectre smirked, eyeing the blade. Nice sparkly, T, gonna hang it on a wall or stab something? Pulse stretched, wincing, suit patched. Everyone's patched up, can we leave this red hellhole? Tex tipped an imaginary hat, arm bandaged, grinning. Sure, little lady, let's get comfy, far from this dust bowl. Virginia, United States. Back on Earth, they debriefed Hargrove, his stern face flickering on a holoscreen in a dim Virginia briefing room, the air cool and familiar after Mars' sterile bite. Concordance is impressed, he said, his voice gruff but edged with rare pride. They're forming a team to mirror your style, Shepard's blade set the bar, Torres. A cell feed blinked beside him, the Red Dawn commander glared from confinement, silent, his wild eyes dulled by bars. T nodded, rosary brushing his wrist, the honor blade's weight a quiet reminder in his gear bag. Mars was done, its red scars etched into them all, but the war stretched on, a shadow they couldn't outrun. Bear leaned in, cracking a grin. Hey, T, think your family could whip up more of those tamales? Mars starved me, Pulse chuckled, Red and Spectre nodding with tired smiles, victory tasted better with a hint of home.